So, in my time after the cartoon controversy, I really wanted to dig into my thoughts and have a journey both on my identity and ideas and the way of life, and also spiritually. So, I had given some small talks on that, but I also want to start saying that what can I say? That I had more than one path to walk on, and I did walk these roads as far as I could, and as deep as and broad as the road took me, and I had time for. And that's walking to understand more than to judge, and that's an important approach, to go with an open heart and open mind to everything you find and see around you. And so I started like wanting to look into both different religions, visiting temples, and so I did. I visited the Jewish temple. I visited the monasteries, some monastery, and I visited uh, the Hinduist and the Buddhist places, and I visited also a lot of churches, and I wanted to explore more than my own religion. At the same time, I also wanted to explore philosophy and logic and the way of life that rejects religion as a way of superstition and a way of suppressing people. They all say God, but they really want the power, and that God is a mystical element beyond us, and religion is there just to give us a frame of meaning. So the existential travel was just as important for me as the religious one, and that made me walk on two paths at the same time, and that makes sometimes things complicated. And we like life simple, don't we? We like things that just happens, and we don't question it, we don't ask about it. And that's why, if people aren't ready to go on a journey or are not pushed into it, sometimes it's about being pushed out there by a tragedy or by a situation that forces you to look deeper. And today I have this understanding from some thoughts I got from others, that sometimes one is like just chosen to go on these deep paths, because not everyone get these tragedies in life, and they never get to dig so deep. But sometimes it can be also a problematic thing itself, because you have to give up a lot of space and time and the brain power and heartfelt moments um, to go on this journey and to try and understand. And it doesn't matter, maybe it doesn't bring you anyway at all. And now I'm sitting here 10 years after, or maybe 15, because it all started in 2007 8, and went on to 18 19, and now 5 years on, 15 years, where I have had talks um, and readings in both philosophy and seeing documentaries, and also having dialogues with friends from another religion. And I explored the Christian religion because it surrounds me, but I also liked exploring the Hinduist culture and the Buddhist ways. And I wanted to explore other sides of my own background, the Arabic background and the Islamic one, the more spiritual ways as well, as I knew them before, but reoccurring in my life again. And at the same time, I was very fond of reading some of the philosophers, and that makes it hard and difficult, because you have to choose. Should you go with Sartre and Camus? Should you go with Spinoza? Should you walk along with Kant and later and uh, and Francis Bacon, or should you should you go with Schopenhauer and Nietzsche? Where should you like belong to? And I don't belong in any of these, and that's what makes me maybe homeless in many times. I just feel I found the only stepping stone for me in looking up to life, looking up to life through the eyes of Abraham, the one true God, but at the same time, in a way that doesn't make this God, um, uh, what can you say? It's not easy to relate to this God, to make this God as a as a limiter, if you understand what I mean, as a way of stopping there and never looking around you and never understanding. Today in our life is really is rich in many ways and there is open paths to explore. Maybe in the old days everything were settled. You had the Turkish community at one side and the Byzantine on the other, and on the other side of the Byzantine you had the Romans, and beyond the Romans you had the Germans, and beyond the Germans you had the Nordic mythological people, and you had the shamanic cultures on the edge of all that. On the other side of the Turks you had the Orthodox Christian Church, and you had some Eastern practices, and then go further south you have Hinduism and Buddhism struggling with both Islam and Christianity, and they were all struggling like to expand their territories and expand their religions and understanding. And today, because we have this unipolar world of one culture that's built on secularism and the value of the human individual and people centered around themselves, and religion on many paths that can be what can you say, can be a polyverse, like in many ways, not the one only truth, but still it's part of the Christian world, a Roman Christian ideology, and look at things that people should be integrated in all this, and there should be open ways to understand multiculturalism and multi-religious religious practices in the world. And that gives an opportunity for anyone who wants to understand. And it needs especially for us to be open-minded to understanding and not judging. And that can be difficult because, like, I'm a teacher and I'm used to judge all the time and used to correct and look at the critical parts of what I'm looking at. That's part of my job, that I should always be teaching, but also looking for corrections, because I need to correct the ideas or the understanding of those I'm teaching so they can get it right. That's how we are as teachers. Doesn't mean we are bad persons, but that's just a characteristic in persons. And we have this judgmental thought in many religious figures. We have it in the Quran very clearly. It's a judgmental book. It's just telling you stories, but it's also telling you what's right and wrong. You don't get a second in doubt that it accepts Christ and Mary, but it rejects Trinity. It accepts the prophets of the Jewish people, but it rejects some of the practices. And you're not in doubt that it rejects atheism and all that. And so I came from a judgmental background. I'm schooled into that, and I had to give a lot to out of myself to get to be that open-minded person who just want to look into things and experience them, just to sit there and try to put yourself in the head and feet of a Christian worshipper or someone in a Hindu temple, and why people are affected like by these Hindu gods and pictures, and why they find peace in the way they do meditation, or in the ways of the Dalai Lama or the Zen Buddhism and all that. So I had really to say to myself, I have to explore, I must explore without the judgmental thoughts. But can we really do that? Because it's part of me, it's part of us when we grow up. And people who set their mind on one thing has difficult in changing it. So I had to push myself a lot and to rearrange my ways of thinking, to see life as a new start, and to see other religions as an exploration field. And I know some people already done that a lot, and some people has easy doing that because they are per se and per definition in their traits, they are explorers and not judges. But it's more difficult to come from a tradition where the truth is defined, and to say, let me put that aside for some years and let me look honestly and open-minded into how other people find compassion in a false doctrine. How can Christians go around giving themselves up to live in monasteries, or to die, or to make voluntary work for other people? What's driving them? What's the compassion in that? And is it actually true? And the same goes for for understanding the Jewish and the Jewish religion and the way they think about themselves and the world and their relation to it and in it and their role in it. And so goes for when I looked into Sadhguru and Hinduism, all from afar, but at the same time with an open mind. And that's the important thing, I think, in the world we're in. It's like a Babel tower with all kind of cultures getting together again, where we have been separated for thousands of years and only fought over the truth. Today we can explore it, many places at least, and there are still many places on the earth where you cannot say that you're going to explore anything else, because that would be seen as a danger to the culture, to the society, to the politics, to the ones who are ruling society. And I know that's true as well, because any society can feel threatened by its members going around exploring other ideas and thoughts. So if you came from a religious, strict background and you were sitting reading Camus and Sartre, that's an opposite, if you can say anything of that. And taking the books of Nietzsche home to look deeply into what they are saying and what Zarathustra talked about, well, that could be very, very blasphemic. And you could be put at the stakes and be burned alive or put in prison in some places earlier in earth. But because we are living in the times we are, I had this opportunity that were lost for many, and many people still lose even though they are living this life. That's very, very strange, isn't it? I see many people go as tourists all around the world, and from Christian and Muslim and all kind of communities, atheistic communities, and they are just dwelling on everything but looking into the cultures around them. They are not really exploring. Some are, but many are not. They are just looking at the food and the streets and the sun and complaining about the flies and the heat and the servants, or just being happy at the poolside. But they are not really saying, what culture am I in? Why am I hearing these clocks of the churches? And what's this Orthodox faith or Armenic church that's around me if I'm in Armenia or Georgia or wherever I am? And how can I meet with some of these people? That's true. That's the real definition of being a tourist, being a traveler. That's spending some time on understanding the deeper values of the people who are carrying themselves in that culture, and not just looking at them as if they were from another planet and saying, oh, how lucky I am. I come from a Lutheran Danish church where I'm free, the most free person on earth. And that's a big lie. That's a big illusion, because these people don't see you as that free person. You see yourself. They see you as a fallen leaf. They see you as a person who are not able to look into the deeper values of life. You are a shallow person in their eyes. And the same goes the other way. When people from very closed-minded backgrounds, they come to other places where they see people living a different type of life, they just shake their heads and say, oh, what a decadent way of living, or what a shallow, narrow way of living. And they surpass the chance to go and look deeper into what's upholding this society, what kind of values is there to keep it together, and how are people looking at themselves, and what practices do they have. That's the big chance we have today as people together in life, to go and explore each other with an open mind. And it needs basically respect. And the problem with respect is you need to be a person who are looking to understand, not to judge. Then you get the respect for the other. And even though you judge, you have to be respectful enough to understand that life is perspectives, and not all the people find the truth you find, and does not dwell on it. And you can find that saying in every religion, every book. And the most judgmental of them all, the Quran, it tells you that. It tells you at the same time what's true and what's not true, and it says not all the people will be finding the truth. Some will be blind, and some will go about not knowing, and some will go about being manipulated. So don't expect people to open their eyes and see the truth. And sometimes you can like be sad and say, okay, this guy had been like traveling the Muslim world for an eternity, but never took his time to open and read um, the most holy book that the people has. And you ask him, have you? Yeah, I've talked to some Muslims, but he never really looked into depths and never asked curious questions, because he has made his mind up, or she has made her mind up, that this Quran is of the devil, or is a bad book, or is not something I can relate to. How do you know that? And many can get surprised. They have not even looked into it. And the same goes for the Muslims who never looked into the Bible and never looked into a New Testament, because it's forbidden, or mostly forbidden. And don't go do that. You have enough in the Quran, it's said. But some people should go and do that, and some does. And they get back with the same judgmental thoughts, and some gets back surprised that it's not such a dark story after all, or maybe it's not that that bad issue that they are carrying. And then you start seeing nuances and understanding that you have common ground, maybe all over the place, maybe minus one, two issues, especially the issue of maybe who is God and who he is, what is God, what's not, and all that, the Trinity or not Trinity, and Moses or not Moses, the Torah or not the Torah, all these things. And some people, they just from early age make up their mind, all this is superstition, I'm not going to waste my time. And I understand that, because it's a jungle. God, it's a jungle to dig into religions. It's so hard and it's so difficult, and you don't get anywhere. I'm telling you that from now. You will just get to the place where you have to choose. You will be part of one of these groups in the end, because they're all stuck into what they believe, and they will keep repeating it, just like somebody with an ideology they keep repeating. And the same when you talk to atheists or people who call themselves scientific or secular. They have made their mind up that all this other stuff is not going to work, and only the ideology of the secularism is going to work. And in truth, the world is working because of all these elements together. And it depends what's dominating, of course. But we have had times in history where religion has been dominated by some kind of secular notions. That's what we called Enlightenment, or the Renaissance area. And sometimes also in the Middle Ages, we had these high Middle Ages of golden eras where religious scholars had the possibility to travel and learn from other communities and societies, and wrote books that were a bit critical in their notion. And some had to push hard and knock on the table, like some of the reformist priests. They had to knock hard on the table. The same happened in the Islamic and Jewish communities. And if you look at their history, you will find the same. So basically, there have been times where we had a secular-minded way of looking at things. We had kings in history who gave space to, like some Catholic philosopher, even though they were Protestant, and the other way around, who brought in some knowledgeable people from other cultures into their court. I don't have the accounts here, but I know I've been through it in documentaries, and people are welcome to try and look it up by reading and listening. You will find that there has been an open world even in the Middle Ages, but many times it's been closed worlds. It's been segregated and partitioned, and the same is today. We have cultures with entities, and cultures always struggle between the shore and the sea, meaning that they always struggle with opening up the sea to like waves to drive their culture in and out, and let other cultures stream in and out, and to have the shore, to have the protection of the culture. Like I imagine right now the Indian culture struggling against the Muslim minority, who is a very big minority in northwest India, and the same with the Muslim culture. Some places in Indonesia maybe, or Philippines, struggling with the other religions. And so they keep struggling together, and the secular societies who doesn't like religion struggling with people who have brought religion into this society, who have seen themselves as surpassed religion to a very secular and scientific notion. And what is science? Science is the foundation of the way we can invent things and have logic, but it's not the foundation of understanding the whole truth of the world. So science also contains mystical elements, and the deeper they look into space, the more they find that it contains more and more ununderstandable sides of it. And the particle they are rushing through the accelerator in Switzerland and now in France, they know that these electricities, now they've found a third type of electric current, and they are trying to understand the electrons, and they say, oh, we found a new thing that's not electron, that's not the thing that keeps it going. So the mystery still evolves and still shows new sides of it that makes scientists very dazzled. And so many, with respect to themselves, they don't want religion, because religion, in the way it practiced itself, became a way of suppression or superstition. You have just to believe that this is a common enemy, burn him or her on the stake, she's a witch, even though she were practicing healing medicine. Or else religion can be in many ways suppressing, because it wants its only truth, and if you believe that everything that's written should be interpreted the exact same way, that can kill science and kill the space for exploration if it's practiced in a wrong way. Not all religious people agree to that, and that's also true, that many with religious ideas, they say no, religion has given way to healthy sciences to explore medicine and ways of life and architecture, but we do not need some kind of sciences that's just in its way damaging for life, or not necessarily healthy. And who defines what's healthy and not healthy? And there goes the fight again. So it's not easy, and it's complicated. And so why put yourself into this trouble? You don't. I'm telling you, as a human, you try just to live your life, but sometimes a tragedy or a situation or a deeper notion brings you face to face with what you believe or what you think you believe, and then you have to look everything up if you are true to yourself and you really want to make sure, am I standing on the right ground here? Am I just part of some culture? And I am, and I'm never gonna be different, and you're never gonna be different, because everything that made you who you are today has already been put from before you were born, and has been surrounding you. And the ideas that I'm speaking today was heretic, and only a few spoke of if you go several hundred years back, because people could not think outside the box. And today maybe the new ideas, I'm not speaking at all, the important ideas, maybe of a global human village that go and visit each other and look positively at each prayer in a temple, and each science and each scientific experiment as a way of exploring life altogether. Maybe that's the truth that we need to evolve into and understand, that as they say, if the religious people should understand that if God wanted, he would have settled everything to the side of one. But can they see that every time one religion is taking overhand, the other religion just gets back at it, and it keeps the balances? And at the same time, you see the scientific people, each time they think they are free of religion and free of superstition and making discoveries on pure logic, they fall into deep pits that needs explanation. And they can only turn to language and to reason, and it's all limited. And that's what we have to understand. That's why the respect for each other is necessary, because we are all limited by the way we are thinking. And the thoughts we have are limited by our language and by our input. We have filters from the beginning that makes certain aspects of life invisible to us, and certain dimensions of life not visible to us, we are not able to understand it. Imagine the waves, um, of a microwave or electricity or the radio. It's a puzzling thing. We think it's not puzzling, and we think we have a scientific explanation that, this and this and that happens, and then the current goes through, and then you have the message. You can hear the voice on the other side. Me recording this now, and later on YouTube, and somebody sitting in Africa maybe listening to this will say, well, that's normal. But what's the explanation behind it? Well, I can tell you that, and he tells me the explanation, and we go find the manuals of how this is working. But there is a mystery in it somewhere, and that how are these waves really transforming the exact words and sounds. So we have mysteries even in science, and we know that. But in order not to fall into the hands of those who say God but want power, and there are a lot of them, I can tell you that, in religious people, and they can misuse you, and they can put you in boxes, and they can judge you, and they can isolate you, and they can make you a heretic, and they can make you a hero, whatever they want, because they have the power of God and the religion. And that's what happened to that poor guy Spinoza, who was really trying to dwell deeper on the mystery of the universe, pushed out of his society, and later on misunderstood for many hundreds of years. And so happened to many others. Some were lucky to even let their thoughts get through history, and others were more unlucky, and so started the secret societies, because they couldn't be among these average people of what they call stupidity and mediocre thinking. Simplifying life isn't possible. It's easy to do so, and it's necessary so we can get on with our daily life. And I don't sit all day thinking about these issues. I just go about my life one thing at a time. But when I sit and think about these things, I found out how complicated they are and how limited I am. And everything I'm saying now is a product. It's a product of my time and the way I'm thinking, and the world around me can be thinking. This is not a revolutionary talk. I'm not saying anything that's out of order, because if I do, people will put a stamp of me as crazy. And that's why sometimes they say that if you are in the psychiatric ward, you look at the outside world as the crazy one, and the opposite goes. We think we are the normal, but are we really? Are we really understanding anything, or are we just going by, trying not to understand? Because, as Dostoevsky would say, you will go crazy, you will go mad. He wouldn't let you. Who is he? I don't know, but he thinks there is this greater power that just won't let you understand the secrets, and if you do, you have to keep it a secret, and if you don't, you will be punished, just like happened to Prometheus, who carried the fire to people and got punished for that, or that guy who had to push the stone all the way up the hill for eternity. I forgot his name, Sisyphus, because he gave some information he shouldn't have given on. And so there are levels of secret in this life that we shouldn't dig into, and that's why I envy sometimes these simple people. I once saw a comic drawing of a philosopher and an ordinary person. The philosopher was going about asking 100 questions and thinking and all that, and spending his time on nothing. And the other person say, "Well, I'm here, and this tastes good. Let me eat it." And that's what Voltaire, he concluded in the end. Voltaire is excellent. I forgot to mention him. He had this story about this traveler, Gadis. I forgot the name of the story. I'm forgetting a lot, actually, but yeah, he's a traveler, and then in the end he meets this philosopher and settles down, and he has 100 questions for him, and that philosopher just said to him, "Let's go." After he talked to him and all that, he said, "Let's go about gardening and taking care of our garden." So it's beautiful just to conclude that we are here to take care of a small garden, or maybe help someone when the time comes, or just be there for whatever we need to be there for, and nothing more. But some of us, we need to explore, and we have to understand. And if you want to understand, you have to be respectful, and you have to be perceptive. If you are judgmental, you won't understand. And if you want to really get through to other cultures and see life from their perspective, truly, like if you could go into their body and see it with their eyes, you have to take into account they were born like this, they were raised like this, and they had it all in their heads and minds, and mothers' ideas and words and milk, as they say. And so when they are brought up and they meet with another culture, take an Indian from a Hindu perspective, and he or she meets with a Christian or a Muslim or something else, or these worshippers of different neo-religious ideas, how difficult it may be. Maybe it's easy to relate to people, but it's very difficult for this person to the smell, the sounds, everything is strange. And the same goes for a person who have heard church bells all his life or her life, and only heard the Gospels and the way of Christianity, to go about and have to listen to something totally strange. We get used to things and we live in them. And that's why it's not easy to explore other religions. And if you put on top of that we are sometimes manipulated, many times, manipulated by the same culture to put that border between us and the other culture, because we have had bad experiences with them. We can say, oh, we had the Crusades, we had the big fights between Hindu and Muslims in India, we had the Mughals, we had the schism between the Byzantine and Roman Empire. We can never be friends again. We have fought, we have killed, and so on and so on. We can relate to negative stories, and it's easier to put the barrier, and we can see the hatred in the other. Whatever you are, whoever you are, it's the easiest thing. The hard thing, and what makes you human and brave and on the right way, is to say, I have to use some time when I'm traveling, when I'm a tourist somewhere, to understand the culture and the people behind the culture, and you will be surprised. You will find they share your common humanity. They, in their own way, share the thoughts and dreams that you have. And that's the beauty of the global culture we are maybe on the brink of having. I'm not sure, maybe we're going to have a recession back into the clashes of civilization, but a lot also shows in the direction that we are just on the brink of breaking through to millions and billions of people, if the media is used correct, and not always diverting attention to very shallow issues. We could break through, sharing the dreams. There are 7 things that humans have in common that we should repeat over and over, and should be taught at schools, that we share life, and we share the resources of it, and we share love. We share the notion of love, or being loved, or being seen or respected, or being part of something. And we share that identity, that we need to be part of something. And then we share dreams in life, and we share death, and we share sorrow. So these 7 are common for all people. People have explored that, and they found it in every culture. They express the uniqueness of these 7 issues, and we have them in common, and we put them aside because it's not enough. We want more, and we want the differences. That's our deepest strategy in life, and that's why people who think like this doesn't have a chance of surviving, because it's tribalism and racism. The tribalism can have many faces. It can have a racist face, and it can have a religious face. It can have an ideological face. But it still goes back to that we want our tribe and our small group to be the superiors, the dominating. It's the instinct of the animals in us that's the superior. And that's why I like this side of religion, because in its pure and true form, it's trying to make people rise above and get above that level of the instincts, to dwell on the soul, on the higher spheres, on becoming a better version or person or better identity than you were before. And that's what you get out of searching into religions. You get that strange practices. Indeed, when I went to a Hindu temple, I could understand they are putting this food into that cave, and they are making incense and noises and sounds, and they have many pictures of these gods. That doesn't correlate to my picture at all. I would have big difficulty in living in that culture. That's why it's difficult for me to relate to it. It's not easy at all, and I would reject it as a way that's too difficult and too complicated. And the same I would with other things. People who are maybe shamanic or using esoteric forces, or maybe astrology, and so putting their faith in the stars totally. Maybe I would reject that as illogical. And you would reject some other things. Some would reject things in the Muslim cultures, others in the Christian culture. And so we keep on going. And then the easiest way for us all is to go on fighting about it. With words, with swords, with economy, with who holds the highest power. And right now in the world, we have one big power that's trying to make the world look in a certain way, using the inspiration from the Greek and especially Roman Empire of integrating people into one big bowl of diversity and religious multiculturalism across religions. And that's what my talk here will be related to, as if I am promoting this exact idea, and it's opposed by religious forces and non-secular forces in all its shape and kind. And maybe they don't have the strong voice to show it, but one day they will. And one day they will fight it and take over, and the world will look very different. And it will be a world where closed entities would have their pure faith, and people who believe in it can join. And then, from time to time, they fight with the other entities, because the world is like this, multipolar, both politically, culturally, and historically, in religion and in affections. And so having a unipolar world, that's also what monotheism wants. So even though the empire we're living under today is, and I call it empire because it's an empire of thoughts, the secularism, the empire of secularism and scientific atheism, which it's not scientific at all. I'm not saying that, but it's not totally non-scientific either. But this imperialism and this way of this, what can I say, this power is holding grab all over the world and uniting it in a certain way, with a certain way of thinking. And a lot of people are lost in it and are shallow, and a lot are opposing it or segregating themselves from it, waiting for different times. And these times will come because it's always shifting. No one power has ever been holding power for so long until some force comes back at it and pulls it back and pulls it down. And that's what every party of the religious groups are hoping, that God will favor them, and their God in particular will go and have and be the victor of it all. I hear that a lot from Christians who have the big hope that Christ and resurrection has made it possible for God to bring himself back and put everything right, and the second earth and the harmony will begin. So here we get another key word, the harmony. You hear that in the Islamic and the Jewish culture. The Jewish who have been in diaspora for thousands of years want the harmony back, and the old memories of being on top of things and being the leading power in the world, the chosen people whom God favors And so goes for the Muslims, who are waiting for a second chance to get their big caliphate and widespread uh, lifestyle, and they're ready to fight for it as well. And so goes for the Hindus, even though they do not show it directly, and they do not like go about it with the sword, but they will defend to death that they can have this space of emptiness and non-belief in all the other ideologies as a way of belief, and having the multipolarism face of gods in people's life as the way to the one true God, the destructor and the creator at the same time. And that doesn't go well with some of the other religions, and that's why they will go and fight about it whenever they get the power back. Right now, everyone is held back by this big idea of secularism that has the power behind it to push itself through in many ways, and has secret societies who works for it. You can tell me how I know that. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know I know. But somehow that seems to me how the world is working right now. And what I'm saying now is not tapping into a support of these ideas. I don't know what I support. Maybe I'm on that level that I'm just trying to observe. I've put myself on a small cloud right now with an angel or a demon or whatever you can call it, and try to look down at the whole picture. And that's what some have done. I love the notion that even though he was a hardcore atheist, and that doesn't correlate with my beliefs, but Carl Sagan has been doing that in his lectures in the 90s. And I love especially one of his lectures where he speaks about this in particularly, saying if we went to the moon, or you could get outside this world, you will shake your head at people and the cultures and the way we go around doing things. And we need to open our eyes to this, not because we have to leave our beliefs, but because it will just make us grow into understanding that we are small ant families fighting, small animal herds rushing to or for or from. So imagine if this global village could really cooperate. We could get so clever that both the Chinese and the opposite culture in the States and Africans and everyone, Scandinavians, North, South, East, West, with all their different global cultures, they could get so clever that they would educate everyone in saying cooperation is the only way to salvation, and the only way we can develop and protect this earth and get greater powers. Imagine where we would have been instead of using all the money on arms and races for nukes and destruction and protecting ourselves that way. I know it sounds so hilariously naive, and it is, because reality is far different, but that doesn't mean we cannot dream or talk or say the words that's needed to be said. The big dream that was 1,000 years ago had become reality today, and what I'm saying or somebody else is saying, this is not my words. This is just a way of reaccounting the words. Imagine if we could all cooperate. Where would we have been? I'm sure we would have been surpassing the planets and Mars and everything, because if all the technology could go together in cooperation instead of competition, that destructive competition. Many times competition is good because it puts people on the track of trying to be better. But many times it's also destructive because competition makes us want to win, and that means we're gonna sabotage the others. But if we're gonna compete on the same dream and vision, that let's all evolve and let's all protect ourselves, everyone, from destruction. That's the idea of the United Nations, but that's gone corrupt. So, sorry to say, I know some people still have hopes, but it's gone corrupt. And if one power is trying to uphold them all, they will revolt. Nobody would like it. And maybe this power is corrupt too and will misuse its power, and so others will revolt in more justified ways. It's difficult, very, very, very difficult. And that's what makes people say, listen, I don't want to listen to all this. I'm a realist. Um, Life is a fight. We are not better than animals, and we are herds, and let's go on doing all this we've used to do for thousands of years. But I believe that the deepest idea behind religions and behind the scientific approach and the logic, the brain, and then the hearts that we have, they are all from time to time calling us, and especially the lights from the religious ideas, the core religious ideas in every religion, is that humans wake up and get to that level where you understand that God is with you, and He's behind the source of everything. He's the light behind everything. Don't get dragged into that pit of fighting and hatred, because if you can raise above these psychological troubles you got, then you can meet. And that's what Carl Jung got to understand. People still doesn't understand the full depth of Carl Jung today. I don't know. I don't know anything about him. I just know very, very little about two or three of his small books that has been taken out of his life work. That's huge. And this guy had seen some truth in his life, that seen some depths that he also had trouble in expressing and wanting to deliver. But one word he got success in saying is that if you want to get over walls, we have to look deeply in the psychology of ourselves and in people. And there goes the next frontier. They think it's the ocean or it's the space, but it's actually psychology. That's the real frontier for our human development, because inside it and inside us is everything. And the problem with psychology today is huge, because it's not taking into account these esoteric and mystical and spiritual. It's not taking it enough into account. Mystical and spiritual impulses and motivations and drives that we have, they're mostly today taken over by a hardcore so-called positivistic scientific and atheistic approach that makes everything like brainwaves and NLP, just mental processes, and makes everything just like we were some kind of robots without being robots, and with no soul and with no deeper ways out of this world. But some have always believed we have it buried, the key and the gateway is buried deep within us. So we have to make this journey, and who is making it, and with what approaches. So we are again, I think, lost, and we need this salvation, and we need a savior, and we have to wait, and we have to know that we have not the power to pull ourselves up and out of this pit. We need something from the outside to help us, and this outside can very well be inside at the same time, because it will be the mirror. When any person with a message comes around with a big force and power and support from the source of light of God, these persons and they are mirrors to what people can find buried deeply within them, and they really want. Now, if you ask people all over the world, do you prefer fighting or living in a global peace of village, they will say fighting, because of my values will get lost. But if you could let people see that they have much more common ground and understanding, and their values won't get lost, you would go past a person, say, where are you going? I'm going to the temple. And the other one, where are you going? I'm going to the laboratory. And there is no contradiction and no fight between them. And that's what Dan Brown brought out in the book of Angels and Demons, in that long, beautiful speech from that priest who went mad and wanted to create an artificial threat against the church in order to make religion great again. And he had this beautiful speech I maybe will talk about at one point. So this is just a kind of an introduction, that we should meet the world with an open mind, with respect, and go explore and put the judgmental ideas aside for some time. We will get back to be judgmental, and we will get back to following either our own ways or modifying them. But believe me, when you dig into other cultures with a true open heart, you get back enriched of the common humanity you have with these people, and you will never ever again be able to dehumanize them as you thought you could do in the beginning. Yeah, have a good day.